War Eagle Auburn family, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. This is a post-game reaction show for Auburn versus San Jose State. Your Auburn Tigers. That was a tough one, wasn't it? They do get the victory over the San Jose State Spartans. It was not pretty. It was not what we expected it would be. 24-16, isn't that what the score was? I can't remember what the score at this point. I'm probably just at this point blanking out of what actually happened in this game because of the frustrating nature which we all found ourselves watching this particular game. It was not one that we all thought would go the way we thought it would, and it's going to be one that's going to be interesting to break down tonight. I think the word and the approach that I would stress that everybody take tonight is one of thoughtfulness and not overreaction over what just happened. Although I understand the overreaction sometimes, we're going to try to break to it and give our initial reactions and comments and stuff like that. So as we get started tonight, though, as we always do, please do a couple things for us. Make sure you smash that like button if you enjoy this type of content. Please do make sure that you also post right now in the chat. This is our check-in period. Post where you're watching from, city, state, international. We want to know who's here watching, even if it's on the replay, hanging out with us tonight to talk about us being a part of the Auburn experience and part of the Auburn family, and what is sometimes an interesting thing to endure at times. So let me talk about this first. Obviously, a little bit different. I'm in a not a mobile broadcast studio. That's my car. We are on the road traveling, and I've had to make a little bit of a makeshift studio work. So obviously a weird little backdrop here. Hopefully it doesn't fall down. Hopefully the audio sounds okay. Please do let me know if it doesn't, because this is something that I'm trying to throw together here all together. So just keep me posted on that. If it sounds okay to you guys, would love to make sure that this is still a great experience for all of you watching online as we go throughout the stream tonight. All right, let's see who's already here saying hello, hanging out with us. I see a lot of familiar names already here. Devin, Anita, Rob, Drip Edits. Who else? Brian's here. Cortland, Rhodes, Tyler Mosley. Good to see you, Tyler. A lot of familiar faces and names popping into the chat. So please do make sure you say hello, smash the like button, and let me know that you're here as we get throughout the stream, and we'll take some of your comments and questions. Also, one final thing, our Booster Club members should have access to the link. I posted that or scheduled it to post for you guys. So if you'd like to call in, I will be able to take your calls as long as the internet holds out here. Again, this is a mobile broadcast studio of sorts, so we're trying to figure it out along the way. All right. We got Devin who says a win is a win. That is definitely one way to approach it. So when I talked about us having a balanced way in which we react to what just happened, you can't be, the sky is falling, we're never going to beat another team again, but you also can't be, everything's great, right? Devin's got it kind of right. A win is a win. You kind of take what you got here, you learn from it. That's the important thing. You don't just brush it aside. You actually go back, watch the tape, figure out what happened, what wasn't working, why it wasn't working, and figure out how to do better, because you've got much more formidable opponents coming up down the way that are going to take advantage of some of these things. Rob says Derek Hall is the MVP. I think definitely you could make a case for that, especially at the end of the game, is where Iku Leota also had a sack or two, I believe. We'll look at some of the stats here in just a little bit, just so that we can dive into some of that as we're watching here. He said, I stopped watching. Well, it's fair. It's fair. I can understand not wanting to watch. Rob says no overreaction. The offense looked like garbage. It looked like garbage for the first half and for fleeting moments in the second half. Yes, but it got itself somewhat righted. A lot of that is thanks to TJ Finley, who threw an interception tonight, but also got the team under control. This is yet again, I hate to say it, another situation where he finds himself playing an inferior FBS school and is finding himself in position to be able to lead us to victory. So, I don't know if that's how he planned to be doing those type of things, but hey, here it is. Brian's checking in from Minneapolis. Good to see you. TJ played solid after that interception. Doesn't excuse it, but at least he came back and went out to work. Absolutely. And that's what you want in your leaders, right? Everybody's going to make mistakes, but it's how you respond to those mistakes. And I'm happy that he got the opportunity to show that he could make some clutch throws, that he could lead the team down the field, use his feet a couple times, got himself a touchdown tonight, and provide a sense of, I think, calm in what all of us as Auburn fans were slowly beginning to feel surmounting here. Is this going to be another Georgia State? Oh, that brings up memories of bad stuff there. This is also something I was hoping somebody was going to bring up. I was planning to. The wide receiver duo from San Jose State dominated our corners, way more aggressive going to the ball. Why do our DBs not look back for the ball? Well, it's a great question. It'd be easier to answer if we were out there on the field too. It's much easier said than done. It is how they're taught, but you got to do it in the game, right? We need to give credit where credit is due. The quarterback and those two wide receivers and tight ends, especially, or just their bigger wide receivers. I don't know if they count them as tight ends for their offense. 88, 84, maybe. They were outstanding tonight and are the reason that they even had a chance to win this game tonight. So credit where credit is due to all of them. And, something that I hope we're definitely not going to have to revisit because that was frustrating to watch, but you got to give them their due here. So saying again, hello to a lot of people. Big sheesh. Yes. We'll see anybody else here. O-line could not create holes. That was one of my frustrations tonight. And it was a little bit perplexing for me, kind of. Obviously we're reacting to the game tonight, but I just want to kind of take it back to the first game against Mercer. And, I found myself, despite how Tank and Jarquez ended up doing at the end, and finding the offensive run blocking to be very, very lacking. And I think that kind of reared its ugly head again tonight. So we still seem to have that issue. What is the difference this year is it seems like Tank and Jarquez really know that is going to be a deficiency and have accepted that and have found ways to be more creative. Will it get better over time? Only time will tell. But this is definitely one of those nights where you look at it and you go, that's a little bit frustrating. A little bit frustrating to continue to see that. Good to see a WT. A win is a win. Is that what Bammers say? No, I don't think that's what Bammers say. I think that's what anybody says who's being, somewhat level-headed about it. But it is, we use that phrase against those people when they say it, but the reality is a win is a win. War Eagle from Lakeland quietly. I understand. How much of the playbook was not shown? Interesting question, Jordan. I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to think that we didn't hold back on purpose tonight. I'd like to think that we were a little bit more wanted to get more out there, but I just don't know that the way that the game went along, if we were able to do some of those things. All of this is just going back to work, back to the drawing board and figuring out what happened. It's just like with the interceptions that Finley threw last week. They quickly identified what happened and hopefully corrections were made. Tonight, Finley's interception, in my opinion, and you all may disagree with this, was the fact that there was just a great play made by the defender. And I said this once, but I think this is lost in moments like this. You really need to be level-headed enough to give credit where credit is due to your opponent, who came in overmatched. No one believed in them, and they did what they needed to do to win. Remember what we talked about in our preview about the things that they needed to do to find themselves in the game, and they did them. They significantly won. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I know it was at least 2, right? 2 interceptions. We didn't get an interception. We didn't end up getting that fumble. So maybe it was just 2. They won, at least at some point were winning the time of possession. That really gave them an opportunity to be winning there. And they exploited us through the air. Those are some of the big things that we talked about. Brian, I know you are Mr. Negative Nancy. I still believe that we can end up 5-0 at the end of this homestand. I truly do. And I know I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you of that, but hey, sometimes that's just like being against a brick wall. Not specifically about you, but just in trying to convince others of that notion. I think that we are very capable of it. One game is not a reflection of what will happen in the future. Completely what will happen in the future. TJ looked more composed in the second half. 100% agree there. Auburn looked like poop. Those of you predicting a huge win were basing that on Mercer. Not true, WT. I was predicting a huge win, but it wasn't solely based off of Mercer. You can go back and find out where I even said that we shouldn't base that solely off of that. But you have to use that you have to use the information that you have at hand for the first game to kind of look ahead and see what that can tell you about what you might see in the second game. The great thing about the game of football is that everybody plays everybody differently. It's just a matter of fact. Today, Texas had no business with Alabama, and they still messed it up for themselves. By the way, is Texas still back? I don't know that they've ever really gotten back. But they played a great game against Alabama, and by all rights should have won the game. Yeah, that's not really here or there to talk about the missed holding call. It was a missed holding call, but we're talking about this tonight. I saw that about the Georgia State game. TJ threw 3 good passes, but he handed the ball off great. Might be a little bit of an oversimplification, but hey, sometimes that's all you need your leader to do. And in fact, tonight, it kind of felt like we got back to some of the old bad habits that happened under Mike Bobo. Did anybody else feel like that, where we were kind of getting a little bit pass happy there? And I found myself getting very, very frustrated with that. And I think Coach Harsin recognized that a lot quicker. And despite the lack of push that we were getting from the offensive line, I focused on that. I thought there were some very timely decisions to use Robbie tonight, despite how, frankly, poorly he played at times tonight, and still kept with him. The great thing about this tonight is everybody wants to focus, obviously, on TJ. A lot of focus about Robbie and the mistakes that he made because he's the golden boy right now. And that's not me saying that I don't think he's a humongously valuable guy. We're not ending this game the way that we did without his contributions. But I think you can clearly see that he's not perfect, and neither is TJ. We may not have a perfect quarterback. And of course, the rumblings online began, why isn't Zach Calzada play? So we're just going to continue the cycle of that, it seems like. I don't blame you for skipping that second quarter. I wish I kind of had. Honestly, I was watching the second quarter and starting to come get the studio set up a little bit, trying to get ahead of schedule. Let's see here. It could be where she could be the Aggies. That's pretty funny. We look completely unprepared. Well, being unprepared and looking that way are two different things. Sometimes people just play really well, and sometimes you just play poorly. Offense was very vanilla, also by design. So I guess another question, how much of the playbook was shown tonight? I'd like to think that the vanilla nature of the offense really wasn't a product of this, like a forethought of decision, more than a response to what was happening. We clearly were not being consistent enough throwing the ball, so we had to go to the ground, even as ineffective as it was at times. To that, and so by that very nature alone, it becomes a little bit vanilla, especially when it's very spotty. Cordero was the offense MVP, but the wrong team. That kid outplayed both of our quarterbacks. Definitely, I agree with that. I think he is definitely the quarterback of the night overall. Now, you look at his numbers, if I remember correctly, they're not all that great in terms of completion percentage and things like that. Like, I think it's, last I looked, I think it was like sitting around 55, 60%, which is okay. Bow numbers. But he came out and balled out. So credit where credit is due. So we ran for more yards than we passed. Why is that bad? We found a way to win. Who cares about how it is done? Well, I think there's a certain case to be made, Devin, that the way in which it was done, the manner in which it had to happen was not ideal. I don't think it's so much about the numbers, so to speak, and how they line up. Because I think if we're all talking about a day where the passing numbers were a lot better, we're all going, yeah. And if we're talking about a day where the rushing numbers are significantly more than the passing numbers, like the outstanding day, it really, you kind of forgive the passing because we were so dominant in the running game. The problem is neither was super. Some good moments for both. The running game, wow, look at that. Pank got 100 and was it a 30 yards, something like that. Jarquez had 3 touchdowns. So it kind of felt a little bit bland all night. This is the big thing, Christy, and I'm glad you pointed this out. We got unnecessary penalties, but I think we can. Oh, well, that last part. I think we right now don't need to worry about beating Bama and the Aggies. We are far from that point right now. We are very far. But I agree with you about the penalties. So tonight, really, the story of the first half was a story of yellow, not orange and blue. It was frustrating at times. There were moments where I felt like things were just being called to be called. But at the same time, you put yourself in those situations to have that amount of calls used against you. So, not unpreparedness, not, just not playing well, not being smart, not being focused at times about some of the little things that Coach Harsin preaches about. All right, I'm getting a little bit behind in chat, so let me skip forward a little bit. So if you have a comment or question that I skip past that you'd like addressed, keep bringing it forward. When do you going to see Zach Calzada? Whenever Coach Harsin feels it's necessary. Drip, I know that's a boring answer, but it's the truth. If he felt like that Zach was ready and was going to be the guy that was going to give us a better opportunity to win, he would be in the game. So if you didn't see that, just like we talked about all last season with Demetrius Davis, that tells you something. I don't know. I don't have all the information. I'm not seeing Zach any more than you guys are seeing online. All I can go is that Coach Harsin wants to win. And if he thinks Zach's going to give him the best opportunity to win, he's going to put him out there. Plenty of opportunities to do that tonight, right? So that should tell you something. Was it only 50 yards, Brandon? I'm going to pull up the stats here in just a second. That is very depressing for him. That was something that was very shocking tonight, Rob. Shanker with the penalties that are just uncharacteristic. When's the last time that John Samuel Shanker's had an offensive holding called put on him, or a penalty in general, offsides, anything? Not offsides, false start. Technically they can't get false starts unless they're on the line set. But yeah, that was very telling of how the night was going for Auburn overall. Let's see here. All right, keep your comments and questions going. Let me pull up some stats here and let's talk through some of them a little bit. And keep in mind tonight, if you are a Patreon member, if you'd like to, I know it is late, but you are more than welcome to call in tonight if you'd like to. The Turf had more tackles on Tank than the San Jose State defense did, probably so. They tripped over Finley a lot tonight too, which was really, really odd to see. Really, really odd to see that. What those specific things kept happening tonight. There were a lot of slips on the turf. I don't know really what it is. Yes, we've had a lot of rain. The turf probably seen a lot of wear and tear because of that. But why are we slipping that so much? So much more than it seemed to do. I don't know. All right, so 16-24 is the final score. No scores in the first quarter. 10-7 at the half. San Jose State beating Auburn. Oh, it just pains me to see it. Auburn scores 10. San Jose scores nothing in the third quarter, and then Auburn finishes off San Jose State with a touchdown. They do get 2 field goals. San Jose State does for the final score, 24-16. So all in all, for a lot of predictions that we talked about, San Jose State did just about as well as we all thought they would. We were kind of sitting somewhere in the range of like a 13-15 type of score for them, and they got maybe a little bit more than most of us thought they would. I think I've had them at 14. But the problem was Auburn's offense tonight did not get off to a good start. And really, if we want to take something and just say maybe this is going to happen the rest of the year, just the information that we're working with right now and say this could happen. It looks like the key for Auburn on offense is that they can get off to a good start. And that's going to start, I think, by focusing on getting the running game going. But the offensive line's got to give us a little bit more of a hole. And you listen, Unbeaten Lake, this is a great thing that you bring up. Coach Harsin is going to harp on this week in his press conferences. He talked about it this week in the press conferences, things that he wanted to see done better, competing for the ball when it's in the air, especially. I have a feeling he was talking very high about his defensive back in fall camp. I think they are a little bit, I would say shocked, but I would say disappointed with how the play has been there right now. Jalen Simpson got beat by the wide receivers. Granted, they are two big, powerful receivers with wide wingspans and good catch radiuses, and they made some great plays tonight. You got to find a way to do that. So they got pushed. They got challenged tonight. We made it through it, and hopefully that'll make them better come SEC time, maybe. Brandon says that the Under Armour cleats are trash. I don't think it has anything to do with Under Armour. I just think the field was a little bit bad. Rob says the forecast looks great for next week. Hopefully we'll get to meet Rob. Always remember, guys, for those of you when we're in town, which I will be next week, we are always kind of doing an informal meetup at Tiger Walk right in front of the banner. You will see me with a little pole and my phone on a stand live streaming Tiger Walk. Please come up, say hello, and hang out. Would love to see some of you guys. All right. Rhodes brings up that we outrushed them 210-54. Let me bring up the team stats, confirm that. 210-54, that is correct. And that's probably your difference in the game. They outpassed us 275-168. We outdid them in yards total 378-329. Honestly, that's a lot better than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. Jordan says Anders Carlson leg strength seems lower. How close to 100% is he? Yeah. So what was let me see if they say that here or not. I'm trying to pull up what the field goal length was, because that would be useful to know in terms of assessing his leg strength. So a 45-yard field goal kick that I won't say barely made it over the crossbar, but it was way closer than it should have been. So remember this, his injury was to his plant leg, not his kicking leg. So yes, your strength comes from your entire body, mechanics, but I think that's what most people are assuming. I'm not saying you are, Jordan, but I'm just kind of answering the question more thoroughly. His kicking leg's fine, but your plant leg is the thing you have to worry about. So is there a little bit of strength still lost from that? Maybe, but he's been making those in practice. I think Coach Harsin even said a couple times they've been practicing 50-plus yarders with him and being pretty good with those. So the strength is not the question. It's more of actual game motion, trusting your blockers, trusting your holder to get the ball down, that whole game simulation thing where it's not just your guys coming after you, it's the other guys. And mechanics and timings get down a little bit more fluidly. It was concerning, though, wasn't it, to see it struggle to get over a 45. A 45 is decent for a college kicker. Not great. It's not, that's probably in the range. You should probably make it 2 out of every 3 of those. And he made it tonight. So take that for what it was and move on and keep getting better. Witt said he's scared. And I understand. And this is a reaction show. So it's understandable to be scared after what you just saw. I'm very worried. I'm very concerned, but I hope that you'll take a day or two to think about it and really process everything. And maybe at the end of the day, you'll find some reasons to kind of say, well, maybe there's some things at least we'll show some progress on the rest of the year. Yeah, there were, Kevlar, some moments where it appeared like Mason-esque, but even as much as I dislike the announcers tonight, David admitted there were some adjustments being made at times. They had some great wide receivers. Let's see here. So who do we play next week, Billy? I think you're Penn State. That's the one we do. The one pass interference call was not good. The play was not catchable. WT, I'm not remembering that particular one. Auburn obviously played sloppy tonight. I just felt like this was one of those nights where the refs needed to kind of reconvene and kind of say, we're really affecting the course of the game here and how it's flowing. We really need to kind of find we're actually calling and when we're calling it and why we're calling it. Defense was on the field way too much. I think they had 3 or 4 drives that were 10 plus plays. Yeah, I can definitely see where that happened. Look at a couple more things here. Here are your leaders tonight that we'll kind of mention. Obviously, we talked about Cordero, the passing leader for tonight in terms of quarterbacks. Cordero has 24 for 40. So that is about 55%, if I'm doing some quick math in my head, 275 yards. So, in terms of overall yardage, yeah, that's great. Not great completion percentage, though. So he completes maybe about 5 or 6 more of those. This is probably a much more scarier night than it was. TJ's 13 for 20, 167, 1 interception. So I don't know if you'll call it a better night for him than the first night because he threw 1 less interception, but no touchdown. He ran in for 1. But I think when you look at composure, command of the offense, which Coach Harsin harps on a lot, you'll find that he did some things definitely better tonight in terms of how he's a leader out there. Rushing tonight, Robbie Ashford is your leading rusher, 7 carries for 71 yards. Very happy to have him out there and be a weapon like that for us. Made an interception throw tonight, which is not great. Fumbled the ball at least once. It seemed like kind of the stage got to him a little bit tonight. I don't know if that's what happened, but was shocked at how much he seemed to have regressed. Javaris Johnson is our leading receiver again, but this time only for 41 yards, and that was like at the end of the game. A couple of things I noticed. We'll get to individuals in a second. Tavares Dawson got his catch tonight, or at least a more notable catch tonight. Coy Moore got a better catch tonight. Trying to think of anybody else that stuck out to me other than that, but Javaris Johnson is the leading receiver tonight. All right, let me jump back to some comments real quick. Ooh, I'm really behind now, so I'm going to skip on ahead of there. More turnovers. How about our first one? I don't remember what that was about. Robin, yes, I 100% agree. Auburn does need to create more turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. That is going to be a harping point for Coach Harsin. WT, I think SGS, San Jose State, exposed Auburn. I'm not hopeful for a winning season. Well, how do I approach this? At some point I have to realize that I can't convince, and I don't mean this in any way, some of y'all to have a positive outlook on things. So that's your choice to do so. I just choose to have fun with my football team and enjoy them actually being out there playing, be frustrated when they don't play well, but just be thankful that they're out there and know that they're going to probably have a better season than even I think that they're capable of. So I don't really have anything else to add that. Chris says that I can't feel good about what I saw tonight. No, I don't feel good about what I saw tonight at all. I think it is definitely something that has risen some concerns again, but I also operate within context of things and not overreact as well. We're going to be talking about that a lot this next week about getting pressure on Clifford for Penn State and really giving him a hard time. I think Iku Leota and Derek, again, continue to show you that they are just 2 humongous threats. I'd like to see them be more of a threat than they have been at times. And they've had some big plays, especially tonight. If they can have super big games next week, it's going to be... Clifford has shown you a bunch of mistakes, and if they can get Derek and EQ on him, he'll expose them, or they will expose him. All right, let me see here. You guys are getting a lot of responses in, so I'm going to have to kind of bounce around here. Isn't it interesting, all of the other chaos that's happening in college football today? When I pegged today as like looking out over all of the matchups, I thought this was going to be a somewhat boring day. It was anything but that today. A lot of crazy things happening all over the place. We only beat Mercer by 11 points in 2017. I didn't feel good about where we were at the time. We went 10-3. So there's some perspective. So let's talk sides of that. Unbeaten Lake is presenting a lot of you who are not feeling great about what our outlook for the year should be after this point. That's a great point. Also, that's a different team in a different place, in a different program. But, so that's when I talk about operating within context of stuff, we can't just use them to say, oh, yeah, well, that means that we're going to be great this year. But it is proof that Auburn has had a really poor performance before and made it happen still and had a great year. Let's see. What else? What else do you guys have on your mind tonight? Let's jump back over here to the box score and talk some more about some things tonight. Robbie was 1 for 3 with that interception, only 1 yard throwing tonight. Tank 13 carries for 51 yards, 3.9 per carry. Got that touchdown. Jarquez got a touchdown. TJ Finley got a touchdown. How about Damari Alston? Had a few good runs tonight. Was really happy to see him out there producing. I really like the way he runs. So it was good to see him out there tonight. So everybody who got a catch tonight, Javaris Johnson, John Samuel Shanker, Tank Bigsby got 4, dropped even 2, I think. Tavares Dawson, Shed had 1 that was called back. Or was that the one that was called back? Oh, no, he had the Hail Mary that almost fell into his lap. Coy Moore and Brandon Frazier completely forgot that he got in there tonight. So ball was spread around a little bit, just wasn't as effective. WT says, what I meant is that if we were challenged so closely by a team like San Jose State, how are we going to perform against SEC teams that are out recruiting us? I am hopeful that season will be good. Well, I submit to you the fact that App State just beat Texas A&M. They out recruited us and they lost to App State. Now, I personally think that App State is a pretty good team based off how I've seen them perform over the last 2 games, but they lost their first. Yeah, I think they did. I can't remember. So if you're going to, operate within context of things, you got to recognize that if that's your standard, teams that are out recruiting us, obviously that didn't matter. There are other things at play. Jimbo makes some stupid decisions. So that's how you can have an opportunity to win the game. And in my opinion, that is an assumption you're based off of rankings, not necessarily how the players progress while they're here. I feel like I'm shooting a lot of holes in your arguments tonight, WT, but I'm also trying to give you a little bit different perspective. So I hope you don't feel like you're being picked on tonight. Yes, I think we would all serve ourselves well to walk away from tonight understanding that this is a team that is far, far from perfect, but it has a lot of talent, and you see that talent come through in some crucial moments. You'd hope it come through a little bit earlier than that so we wouldn't have to have those crucial moments. And hopefully we can have enough time to work those things out a little bit more. I guess kind of thinking about some of y'all bringing up like recruiting and stuff like that. This was a night for some recruits that were committed to other teams that were here tonight. I don't know that I think the fans, can we give a shout out to the fans? I wasn't there tonight, obviously, in the not mobile broadcast studio, but the secondary broadcast studio on the road. And I felt that tonight the fans showed out, especially in that first half, really making it difficult for San Jose State. It just goes to show you that Jordan Hare is got something special there. Jordan, I mean, we see it all over. We see it on these live streams and stuff. There are people that just want to type things just to type things, and because they know that it'll get the best thing you can do is just ignore those people. As far as the Texas A&M game, it gives you hope. Well, I hope I can. I'm concerned with Brian Harson's body language after the game as well. He just seems like he knows his days are numbered. Hope I'm wrong, but something seems off. Interesting. I wasn't watching his body language very thoroughly after the game because I was in the process of setting up for you all. I did hear what he was saying. I didn't pick up anything in his voice. So I'd be curious to know what made you think that, because to me, I heard a guy that was frustrated with the things that went down tonight, and why wouldn't you? It's always interesting to hear how we, not you're wrong, but that how we interpret the things that we see and hear differently. Because to me, it seems like if he walks off smiling and happy, everybody's like pissed off that he's happy that we got to win that close over an inferior opponent. And in most sense, they are an inferior opponent because they're not a Power 5 conference. They're not a power like we've been traditionally. They don't recruit to the level that we do. So it's just kind of one of those things where, like, it's interesting. How we can see things differently. Tyler, I can always count on you, buddy. Thank you. See, this is what I need. I know you mean jest as well, because I know you that well. But that is one way to look at this. If you guys need something positive, only 4 more games till bowl eligibility. So there you go. I think Tyler has won the comment of the night. Firmly believe in Coach Harsin. I think he's given a chance. He'll gets good recruiting. He'll pull us to the top. Yeah, I believe so too. I think most coaches, given the opportunity, the appropriate amount of time, with the results happening in not just one area being wins, but a variety of areas that show progress, they can be successful at Auburn. Auburn provides a lot of opportunities that honestly, not a lot of FBS schools, even, in the SEC, in my opinion, provide. It's a really good place to find yourself. And, Brian Harsin finds himself, and I think in a lucky opportunity, despite what he has to deal with here. Cliff good today, talking about the Penn State, and he looked terrible last week. So, it's kind of one of those things. We can't just think about one specific game and think, oh, everything's bad or everything's good. We got to just kind of see what happens when we go out there. Here's what you can take about Clifford. He can be really good, and he also be really bad. And I think if we get some of our Penn State fans that kind of, got familiar with the channel, we might see them kind of storm into here next week. They're going to probably be telling you the same things. The story last year was, we just can't stand Clifford because he's so inconsistent. But he had, the game of his life against Auburn and looked like a world beater. He helped them get back in their first game and get a win. And he had apparently a great game today. I didn't watch it, but we'll just have to see what happens here. I opinion that I think a 2:30 game in 86-degree weather, which is going to feel like 95. The way the weather's been so crazy, probably not going to be an ounce of air, like wind in the air, going to be just sticky and gross. Fans are going to be hyped to get some revenge. I don't know that he's ready for this environment. Personally, I don't think Penn State is. I can see, I left the room for a second and I missed the fumble part of that. All I saw was him making the great play, which puts even better perspective. Taking his fumble and making a positive that resulted in a touchdown. You have to love that. And I hope, listen, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you all that I think TJ Finley is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's not. We haven't been able to say that about Auburn quarterbacks since probably Nick Marshall. And, he even has his flaws at times. Maybe Jarrett had his flaws as well. It's been a while since we've been able to kind of walk away and say, man, we are set up, just beautifully in terms of quarterbacks. I think we got very talented quarterbacks here right now. They just are still growing and trying to figure things out together. TJ tonight showed why he continues to get the vote of confidence from the coaching staff. Robbie tonight showed you he is a weapon that presents something deadly for this team that cannot be matched, but he also is not ready based off of 2 games where he has been much like Clifford, night and day. Very deadly with his legs, a little bit subject with taking care of the ball, and, just maybe command. I don't know. He just seemed a little bit off tonight. So TJ should be considered the starter, and know that we're going to be getting Robbie in there as much as we can, because why would you not? Have you seen the guy out there? It'd be stupid not to utilize him because he presents so many great opportunities for you. And I love having him as part of this team. Orange out next week. I forgot about that. I wish we had done the white out to give him back, but hey, I see a lot of you guys talking about some of the other games today. Obviously, the Texas game was a little bit of a bummer, and Kansas getting a win tonight over West Virginia. So, like I said, it was a crazy day for football, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Here's a stat for you all tonight. People that fumbled the ball: Damari Alston, Keontae Scott. Is that basically on the? Was that on a punt return? I can't remember when that was. Ashford fumbled the ball tonight. I guess they didn't count TJ's against him in this stat line because he basically picked it right back up. I don't know why that is. Tackling leaders tonight: Derek Hall with 8, Owen Papo with 7, Zion Puckett got in there with 6. Steiner destroyed somebody at one point. Really like seeing him get in. Riley, who was the star last week, had 5 tonight. So the linebackers are very prevalent tonight, which is what you really love to see. So it'll be interesting to see when we get back together this week. Give you guys a preview of how the week goes for us, for those of you that may be new or not aware of how we do. Tomorrow night, we're going live with the Auburn Experience podcast recording. You can watch that live and interact before and after with us. We'll definitely talk some about this, but it's about a holistic Auburn experience. So tomorrow night at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. The rest of the week, 8 p.m. Central on Monday for grade out of this game. Wednesday, Auburn family night. Let's talk about anything. I'm sure it'll be focused on football. And Thursday will be our preview of Penn State, which is, I know, is going to be a fun one. So you can expect that analysis maybe to come up a little bit more of the linebacker, breaking down how they play. Because right now, looking at their stats, fairly impressed with what I see, but that's just an initial reaction about stats and not really looking at things more thoroughly. So I'll be interested to see if I give them an A on the day or not. Let's see here. Let me scroll ahead just a little bit. Auburn 12-0. I'm calling it. I don't think that we're going to be 12-0. I've seen enough of this team to that I think that to know 99% sure they're going to take a loss somewhere. So for those of you that think I'm a Pollyanna and just trying to look at everything in a positive light, no, I think this team has enough problems and enough issues that will rear its ugly head at the wrong time against the wrong opponent. Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas looks like they're getting better. I may have to eat my words on that. So we'll see. Can they get the problems fixed? I sure hope so. And I believe that they can and that they will. But I still think that they'll take a loss somewhere. What do you think the game plan should be about Penn State? Well, we'll talk more about that, Chris, on Thursday. We spend a lot of the time asking the question, what does Penn State have to do? And so it's kind of the reverse question to win the game, which will be probably a little bit more thorough than when we were asking the question for Mercer and San Jose State, right? That'll be on Thursday. What should the game plan be just initially for Penn State? Establish the run from the get-go. Get TJ. So what was the biggest issue tonight? It felt like we switched back to some of the old Bobo stuff where we kind of focused a little bit more on the pass. The correction was made a little bit quicker. So for those of you that say that Coach Harsin can't make corrections, he proved it tonight, and went back to focusing on the run game, even when it was a little bit disappointing at times. So got to get those offensive linemen to be able to push those Big Ten guys around a little bit more and create some space for Damari, for Tank. I almost said Bo, for Tank, for Jarquez Hunter, for Robbie, and continue to protect TJ tonight. I think he got a lot more pressure tonight from the pass rush, but he made some great plays himself to stay up. For those of you that get very frustrated with him being a statue, in these moments like statue, because other quarterbacks crumble under that, not because they're weak, but because they're just a different type and style of player. All right, skipping ahead a little bit more. Offensive line is going to be key. And Brian, I love, man, you personally take this approach. That I honestly respect you a lot for that comment, because you and I, we've had a lot of disagreements on there. So that is very kind words for you. So, that actually does mean a lot for me. So the great thing about what I hope you guys find on this channel is not that we all sit here. Oh, yeah, we agree about everything, or we're just going to pick on all the people that don't agree with us. I hope that you all feel like we try to balance things out as much as possible. So Brian, thank you so much. And I believe that's sincere, and I hope it is. Just be ready to come back to your 12-0 comment. Hey, listen, I will be so happy to come back to you and say you are 12-0 when we were 12-0, but I feel pretty confident we're not going to be coming back to that comment. Yes. This is probably when I annoyed my family that I'm with this weekend. I probably yelled a little bit louder much later in the evening than I should have when was it Jarquez went out of bounds? I was not happy. It's not happy. Andy, yeah, I agree. You can be happy with the win, but there are definitely some concerns that need to be addressed there. Easy win next week. Not quite, sir. Not quite. Leighton says that Penn State fans are really worried about the trenches on both sides of the ball. They should be worried. Hall, Ikuliota. Here, let me point something else out to you tonight, and I hope I remember this next week when we on Monday when we grade out everybody. Marcus Harris, or Keith Gilbert, not Gilbert, that's a defensive back. What I'm trying to say is the middle of the defensive line, your nose tackle, your defensive tackle, your defensive end. They have been so close to making some great plays and have not wrapped up or finished a tackle. Marcus, even one time, you could see him just kind of beside himself that he made that mistake again. If we can get a little bit of more production, in my opinion, from the middle of the defensive line, we know what we've got with Iku, with Colby, with Derek on the outside. If we can start getting some of the middle of that group to start finishing some of those tackles, that's going to be a special pass rush and run protection as well. If there's something positive about this game, it's that we may have learned how to win a close one. There you go. Listen, I think this is a night where you obviously need to take the wins wherever you can get them. But I also think you gotta be realistic about some of the things that happen tonight too. But that is one of them. Some of the best lessons are learned when you have to struggle through them. And while I am thankful tonight, we did not relive Georgia State to the extent that Georgia State was, but there were some flashes tonight where it happened, right? I'm just thankful. I always miss being on campus and when I have the opportunity to be there. This is one of those times I think I'm glad I wasn't there tonight, because I can imagine with the weather, especially after a win like this, it being a little bit despondent around campus again. I think next week, with the weather that it looks like, and if we can get a big of that, I think the energy on campus is going to be really top notch. I'm excited for next weekend. Let's see here. Need more than 10 easy wins. All right. We're not going away just yet, but if you've got some other topics or conversations, pieces that you'd like us to hit that we haven't yet, especially about reacting to this game, some area of the game that we haven't hit yet, please do post that right now. Let me see if there's any other areas that we talked about Anders, Oscar Chapman tonight. I think given special notice, especially for some of his punts at time. He averaged 43.3, so pretty good, but not great. But there was that one punt at the 5-yard line, which he was very happy about, and his team was very happy about. So he was more utilized tonight than he was last week, which, you never want to have to punt, but you also want to know that your punter's ready. So that's one area that I think was important to get to see a little bit more tonight. Keontae Scott had one punt return for 22 yards. He almost broke it loose. Trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't hidden. You know, as I try to kind of round out my thoughts tonight, the things tonight that stick out are the turnover battle that we continue to lose. You know, not causing enough turnovers, but also giving up too many as well. Losing that battle is what really, really sticks out to me. I was impressed with how TJ responded tonight. That stuck out. I was happy with getting to see kind of the special teams utilized a little bit more in areas that we didn't get to utilize it last week. So those are some of the things that kind of rounding out my thoughts about it tonight. And obviously there's a lot to work on. Anyone see the missed call at the end of the onside kick? Fromm blocked before the ball went 10 yards. I missed that. I think you can block before the ball goes 10 yards, but you can't touch it before it goes 10 yards. Any chance that Jay Jacobs is our next athletic director? I highly doubt that. I think Jay Jacobs is done with us. So I hope you mean that in a joking way. And I love Jay Jacobs, but I just don't think that's a reality. Let's see what else. Any other comments and questions? Jordan Hare will be a totally different atmosphere next week. Absolutely, it will be. Still upset about the fumble, even though they called it incomplete. Only one cameraman had a perfect angle of the recovery, and he missed it. I don't know that there was a perfect angle on it, at least from what we saw. I guess you're saying that the cameraman had the perfect angle and missed it. But, you know, there's people in the way sometimes, and they don't pan exactly when they're supposed to. You know, they can only do the best job they can. At least they didn't give them a catch, right? You know, I thought it should have either been a catch or fumble. I didn't think it should be incomplete, but we kind of came out on the good end of that. But I understand being upset about it. Coach said about the rough performance, that's on me. I need to coach better and make sure we play cleaner and we operate better. And I think that comes from reflection. So another takeaway tonight, the penalties. I think the penalties is going to be the harping point tonight. Whereas we had a pretty clean offensive performance in terms of false starts, delays of games, being in situations where you have to call timeouts to avoid a delay of game. That happened a lot tonight. Those things reared their ugly head tonight, and you're going to see us get back to the basics on those things. Because if a lot of those things are cleaned up, this probably doesn't escalate to the level it did at times. Auburn should have in no way been down at halftime. But I don't know that I ever truly felt that we were in risk of losing this game, even being down at halftime. I felt like we were going to make the adjustments. That's definitely a good prediction. I've heard her name thrown out a lot, but there's not as much fervor around that name being our AD as of late. But that's a big one out there that you keep hearing. What do you think about DJ James? Almost pick six. Yeah, that's you hate that he lost that battle in terms of the ripping it away and stuff like that. I'm happy that Coach Harsin talked about this week, right? Competing for the ball. At least he went and competed for the ball, put himself in a position to be there he had the interception. He just had it ripped away from him. That's a strength thing, right? The wide receiver was a little bit stronger than him. Maybe had his hands in there into a better angle than DJ had made the interception. So it's frustrating. It didn't go our way, but I'm happy that he was there to compete because that's what Coach Harsin has been talking a lot about. All right, a few more questions here. Even me, as a Gus Malzahn apologist, I will see the humor in that. We faced a lot of adversity tonight. He would be the king of that in this moment, so I can appreciate the humor there. Remember last week we didn't have but a couple of penalties. This game showed where we need to improve penalty wise. And isn't it interesting to see it day and night, right? Remember we talked about this a lot too. I think a lot of people felt because we dominated Mercer that we were going to dominate San Jose State. You can see that the talent level is risen simply by playing an FCS school and an FBS school. It truly is. The talent is much better. Their wide receivers were better tonight. Their defenders were a little bit better at times tonight. The talent level is, just night and day. Let's see here. Get ready for it to be 100 degrees maybe, but I think it's 86 right now, which will feel like 95, I'm sure. All right, couple things as we get out of here. I'll take final comments and questions, though. If you haven't, please do check out the links in the description for ways that you can help support our content. You can become a Booster Club member by hitting the link down there. Booster Club can be found over at patreon.com/E2C Network, or you can be a channel member, whichever one. I'm bringing them out of order right now, but both of those things you can take advantage of. You can just hit the join button here to be a channel member as well. There's also other links that you can take advantage of. But the biggest thing that you can do to support us is smash the like button, subscribe so you don't miss any content from us, live streams, videos, all this kind of stuff. Tomorrow night, don't miss it. Live recording of the Auburn experience, where I'm sure we'll be breaking down a little bit more of this frustrating experience because it's part of the Auburn experience, right? So I hope to see some of you guys on the live at 9 Eastern, 8 Central tomorrow night. Still here in the makeshift studio, not the mobile broadcast studio, but the makeshift studio. We got to come up with names for these things when I continue to do them in the future. Anyway, with that being said, guys, thank y'all so much for being here. I know it's a frustrating night. I know it's not an ideal night, but hey, a win is a win, as much as we hate to use that phrase. And I'm happy we got it and can continue a journey, hopefully, to 5-0. But next week is going to be pretty tough. And I'm looking forward to talking about this game a little bit more, and putting that away and talking about Penn State a little bit later in the week. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, you're the best little family within the Auburn family I could ask for. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And until we talk to you again, guys, War Eagle.